Welcome back to the podcast. Today I have Schelby with me. I am pretty excited to have her on here. I was just thinking of how am I going to introduce her to everybody? And I remember the first time I met you, we were both in roller derby, and I think our first interaction, human interaction, was when we rode with a friend of mine, Darlene, to Chicago. Is that right?
Yep, it totally is.
I was like, oh man, she was pretty ballsy to take an 8-hour road trip with me and Darlene.
I was just happy to be a part of things. I was excited. We barely knew each other too, and I was like, let me in, let's go.
I know, I was so excited. I was like, I can't believe it. She's just game to ride in a car with us for, I think it was an 8 or 9 hour drive. And for those of you who, I don't know. I feel like I'm a pretty easy person to get along with, but my friend who was driving, I think she is a crazy driver.
Oh my God. I was in the backseat holding on for dear life. No, she was great. I loved her. She's so fun.
Oh, she's
so
fun.
People, her personality, you just I don't know. She's so overwhelming, but so amazing at the same time. You just want to hug her, but also I don't know, reel her in a little bit.
I know, that's exactly. It's that healthy balance. I think she's one of those friends that just, she just reminds me to have fun, and she's a good person to have around. I love her dearly. And now I'm going to have to call her after I get off the phone with you. But, so for our listeners here who don't know you, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
All right. So my name is Schelby Manning. I am a wife, a mom of 2 beautiful girls. I own a salon. Gosh, what else? I started doing Reiki about 1.5 years ago. And then I'm also kind of on this journey. I feel like everybody that you talk to has figured out. I mean, maybe they don't. They sound like they got it together. But I'm kind of on this, I almost feel like I'm just at the start of my journey. I've got this fire lit under my pants and I'm ready to go. And so yeah, I'm just I feel like it was a good way to express to people through this that we can all be at some point in our journey, but don't feel less than in that start of that journey, I guess. Like I said, when I hear people on your podcast, they know what they're doing. And I'm like, girl, I am starting this and I am hoping for the best. And I don't even know, I don't have a straight line, but I'm on my way. I don't know.
No, I feel the exact same way. I even the people that I interview, I'm like, damn, she's a this. And I feel like people really embody a certain, I'm going to say label, and then it just seems like they're killing it. And then I'm over here and I even feel the same way as you. I feel like all of the things, and I just had this conversation with a gal before I started talking to you. And I'm like, I feel like everything I've done in my life is setting me up for this next step. And I feel like I'm almost rebirthing a new Sasha, so to speak, and I still feel like I feel like a baby all over again. It's so weird.
Constantly evolving and growing and changing.
I know, and once you feel like you got things figured out, the universe is like, oh, nope, I'm going to throw a wrench in it because you said you wanted this at one point in time, and let's make it happen.
Exactly. I love it. Well, good thing I'm not alone in this.
No, not even a little bit. It actually makes me feel better that you said that, because I view you as one of those people that has your shit figured out. It's every time I talk to you, you have a calming presence about you too. So for anybody who hasn't gone and hung out with Schelby or had some of her services, well, you're probably booked up till the end of the freaking year because you're amazing. But it's an experience. Whenever I was with you, I just left feeling $1 million, not only physically, but emotionally, spiritually too, because it's such great conversation. And maybe that's part of the Reiki, and we can get into that here in a minute. But let's take a step back, because I want to understand how you became a salon owner. When did the calling to make people feel beautiful kind of come to you, or how do you, what was that like? Yeah.
Well, so I started doing hair. I went when I was a senior in high school, I had no clue what I was going to do. I felt like, again, everybody had it figured out but me. And so I was like, should I join the Peace Corps? But wait, don't I have to have skills to do that? Should I do this? What, how can I help humans? And when I was I think everybody in middle school kind of goes through a little bit of bullying and stuff. But my parents had just gotten divorced, and I lived with my dad, and he had no idea he had 2 other sons in the house at the time, and then me. So I got bullied and teased a lot because I didn't know how to look and dress like a girl, or, do all those things. I wore a headband every day, and I had braces, and I got teased all the time for all these dumb little things that everybody's going through. But for some reason I was the kid that got picked on. And so, not to say that you need makeup to be beautiful, or you need to do your hair to feel beautiful. But once I learned how to do that, it was like a shift. People treated me slightly different. It was oh, okay, that's weird. Can't you just be nice to people to be nice to people? But in doing that and making myself feel good and building my confidence, I wanted to do that for others. And so I started my journey and going into hair school, that being the reason to help others, to build their confidence, to lift them up, even if it is, just curling their hair or, whatever else. But that was the intent from the get-go. And so I worked at a couple different shops, and I just really wanted to create a space. As an artist, I feel like we need to be in an environment that feeds our soul and that supports whatever our goals we have. And I just kind of wasn't receiving that at the places I was working. It started, good at the beginning, and then I just didn't feel I felt like I was being stifled, and I didn't enjoy that as an artist. I feel like I needed my space. And so I opened up a shop, and I've kind of evolved into 3 different shops. I started at one place and it wasn't serving me, and I started another and it wasn't serving me. And finally I felt like I'm in the spot I needed to be. And it's funny because it's just a tiny little room, but that's my space. That's my zen. And so I had that fear as I evolved and going from place to place and bouncing my clients around. But they're so sweet, and they just went with the flow, and they were like, girl, you can do hair out of a trash can and we will come to you.
Exactly. It's so true.
So it was good to see that they as I did what I needed to do for me, and put myself first, they were along in the ride, and that was really neat. But that's kind of, I don't know. I have this intent of healing and helping people, and I just had to find my right spot to do it at.
Yeah. So how did you know that the other places weren't right? Because I think I've seen you at all 3 locations too, if I remember right. Yeah, because you started at one and then you went to that. Yeah. I don't know if I've been to your newest shop, have I?
I don't think you have yet. I don't think you have yet. So the first shop I started in, I basically had this group of girls, and we all wanted to work together. And I wanted to create a space for them to, like I said, have that artistic flow and to feel like they were I don't know, I feel like I wanted to be a good leader. And I think as a leader, my job is to add value to the people that are around me. And so I wanted to do that for them. I wanted them to feel good about themselves as they were working. And so I started that shop up, and I had I think at one time I probably had 6 girls that I worked with. And
Dang.
then yeah, it was happening. It was kind of a big deal. But then I got pregnant.
Oh, yep.
And I think just that shift happened again, where I was I just want to hang out with this little human. She's really cool. And so having all those girls and having all the stresses of, managing others and all the things that came along with that, I was just overwhelmed. It was just too much for me there. And so we kind of all hit this point where one of the girls wanted to open her own shop, and she's now doing that and killing it. Another girl wanted to move and be closer to her family, and she's doing amazing, and so on and so forth. And so we all just took this path that even though it was this crazy thing, we all are doing great. And so I knew that it was kind of meant to happen after that. It was a stressful thing to decide hey, I was a space for all these girls, and now I can't be that space anymore. But again, it all worked out, and they're all doing amazing. So then I moved to another shop, and it was a shop here in town that they had rustic decor and all these super cute things, and they didn't have anyone to manage it. And so me being a small business owner, I didn't want to see another small business tank. And so I wanted to be there to help support them. And so I kind of it was a weird twist going from this big salon with all these girls, and it was super cool and popular, to then here I am I'm in a corner and I'm running the shop.
I remember that part.
Yes, and it was all right. It was fine. My guests liked that they kind of browse at stuff, but it was one one of these things where I feel like in the last 2 shops I had, I was like thinking of everyone else first, right? So the first place I was thinking of my girls, I wanted them to be awesome and have a great space. And then in the next shop, I wanted to help this other business grow and thrive. Well, then I was like, well, what's happening to me? Here it was, I wanted to set myself up to not be stifled, and I was doing it to myself. And so I have a couple ladies that I chat with that do intuitive work. And my girl, her name is Hannah, and she's wonderful. She's out of Rapid City. I was chatting with her about, coach me, what do I do with my life? How do I live my best life? And she was just saying like, hey, this place is not serving you. She's like, go and find a tiny little space where it's just you and make it happen. And so I work with Mo. She's a good friend of both of ours, and also my massage therapist. And so I was like, how do I part with my best friend? You can't tell me to go and be in this space and leave her. What are you trying to do? And so I was really conflicted, but we ended up finding this space that has 3 little suites. And so we each had our own room. We could do our own thing. We could leave when we wanted to, come in when we wanted to. And it was like just the perfect fit. So, we all have children, and we just wanted to do our job, take care of people, and then go home and not have to worry about managing a storefront or dealing with salon drama or anything like that. So this is, just been a perfect fit.
I'm gonna have to come see you again. I know it's kind of been weird in the world with all this like COVID crap, but let's take a step back to the shift from it into motherhood. So I know that's probably changed you more ways than one. I mean, you think, at least me, I thought like, oh, I had all life figured out and everything's hunky dory, and I'm just like out there crushing goals, and all of a sudden I bring these humans into the world, and it's like, what is life? What is happening? And then it is true, because I used to be kind of like a workaholic, and I was always like people pleasing and like doing things for everybody else. I wanted everybody else to feel great. And then I have these kids, and then it's like, well, I actually want to hang out with these kids. I don't want to pay somebody else to see them like 80 hours. Like, I love these kids. I need to find a way to make it work. So how did you kind of transition that? And I know you said you shut down the one shop and kind of downsized, but what did that look like in your personal life too?
I'm still trying to figure that out. So like you just love these little people, and you want to spend all this time with them. And when I was working at that first shop, I would sometimes work 6 days a week till 9 o'clock at night. It was just, it was giving everything to that space. And so I kind of set this intention that like, I'm going to have this baby and I'll be back in 6 weeks and I'll be working nights still. And I took 3 months off and just wanted to just like, even taking her to daycare at 3 months, I was like, she's too little. I can't do this to her. And so I lessened my hours. I only now work 4 days a week. And I go in at 10 so we can enjoy our mornings together and have breakfast. And then I am done by 5 every day. So that way I don't just go home to tuck my kid in and have her go to bed. I really wanted to savor every moment of this little human's life. And so the funny thing about COVID is it's really like made me even more strict with my rules, because even though I set that intention of like, this is only when I'm going to work, I'm only going to do this, I'd have a client that was like, oh, but I can only do evenings. Can you do that? And so I'd bring my little human in there and she'd come to work with me. But now having COVID happen, it really is forcing me to, I'm not bringing her in this space. I don't want to expose her potentially. And so I'm hoping that this will be the thing that like makes me like stick to it. It's just so hard as a people pleaser, like you were, I want to help everyone, but I have to kind of realize I'm just one human and I can't do that. And I have to kind of stick with what I want to do. I have to stick with being there for my little girl, but it's an everyday struggle, just trying to balance,
Yeah. How do you navigate that? Like, is there certain, like, do you, like for me, there are certain people that I think know that I will bend the rules for. And it's almost like they start to take advantage of that because they're like, oh, well, you did it once. Like, why won't you do it this time? And so I find that boundaries are easier with people who I first meet, because it's like, hey, this is me and these are my boundaries and I'm not going to sway from these. But like people that I've known for a really long time, I feel like they kind of take advantage of that. They're like, oh, well, 6 months ago on Saturday morning, you met me here for coffee. And so now I want you to do that every Saturday or whatever,
Yep. Yep.
How do you,
I definitely have that same thing.
so how do you navigate that? Do you just, I mean, it's hard, but
Mhm.
what are your thoughts?
I feel like I'm the same way as you when it's someone new, and it comes down to my time or even my pricing. I feel like I struggle with it. I don't know quite how to navigate it yet. It's a ever changing and growing process, I feel like, and especially like I've been doing a lot of work on like knowing my self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I think a lot of people struggle with. And so
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of meditating on it and a lot of just like valuing myself and knowing that like I get so entangled in the person in my chair, you know, where I'm like, oh, but I know that they like, oh, they're struggling to buy groceries, but so I just want to give them a free haircut today with their color because I just love them and they followed me and all these things. But again, I have to understand like I have to buy groceries too. I have to, do this and that too. Like, and what they're coming for is, yes, it's not something essential. I mean, my clients think it is, especially after COVID. They're like, this is essential. I need to.
Yeah, it's essential.
You are an essential worker. But I have to kind of set that mindset of like, they don't need this highlight today. Like, yeah, maybe they think they do, and it's going to make them feel amazing after this. But if they're gonna, spend the money, then they can spend the money. And so I think I have to change that mindset of knowing like, I've done hair for 11 years. I have a family. Like my prices should have changed from what they did when I first started. And it's something I'm continually working on and trying to get better at. But I do agree with you, like with new people, it's a lot easier to say like, this is my price instead of, underselling myself. And this is the times I can only do. And so I try to really stay strong with it that way. But I think I have to do a lot of personal growth there with my guests that I have existing that, again, I've like bended backwards for. And I think that I have to just get a little stronger and a little bit more confident in myself.
I think once you do, the people who are meant to be your clients will stick with you. You know what I mean? Because even if
Oh,
you raise your prices 5 or 10%, or hell, even double them, like the people who really value your work are probably going to say like, oh, I can't believe you didn't up your prices a long time ago.
and there's sometimes they'll even say it to me after I charge them. They're like, oh, that's it. I'm like, dang it, I'm shooting myself in the foot. I should have charged them what I wanted to, but I took that $5 or $10 off. And it's so hard because I just love everybody and I just want to, I don't know, I just want to give everything I can.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's a lot of times I say it, like, I wish I could just do everything for free, but then there's those people who don't value free either, right? I think of it as like the workouts. Like there's a million free workouts out there that would be life changing, transformational, but people want to pay for the experience, right? They want to pay for that one-on-one guidance or that interaction that they have with that person. So okay, so how have things shifted for you this last few months? Because did you end up having to shut down, or what did that look like?
Yes. So our city in Vermilion, they shut down businesses for 60 days.
Okay.
So yeah, they closed us down, and having not known enough information 60 days ago, I feel like it was such a good thing that they did do it, because I would have felt terrible having not known any information about it and then being, around my guests and exposing them or exposing myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I was glad it happened. And it was, 60 days is a long time, but it flew by so fast. It was bittersweet. I loved getting that time with my child. She's almost 3. And so she's at that age where she's just like growing and changing every day. And so to be able to be there and be present and see all of it happen instead of, just in the evenings and a couple days on the weekend, it was great. And in the same sense, I miss my guests so much because I love what I do. So yeah, it was bittersweet. And I'm happy to be back though. I'm digging it.
Are you?
Good.
Yeah.
It feels so good to get that sense of normalcy. I have to wear a mask and I sanitize like crazy and do all these things, but at the same sense, just being around people and getting my hands in hair. It's such a weird thing. I don't know. It feels like home. So I'm happy to be back.
I love that. Yeah, our kids just started seeing grandparents a couple days a week. They haven't gone back to like daycare or anything yet, but even that, like having 5 or 6 hours of adult interaction has been game changing for my mental health, we'll say.
Yes. Yep.
I love my kids, but then it's such a, yeah, bittersweet is a good way to put it, because I love hanging out with the kids all day, but at the same time it's like, okay, I can't read books or color or not like have an adult conversation. You know, sometimes I just want to like talk, and it's hard to just talk to a 3-year-old because she's like, what are you talking about, mom? Like,
Yep. They're like, they don't understand.
no. And sometimes I'll like just talk to Oakland. She's like, you're silly, mom. I'm like, yes, I know. But let's talk a little bit. So getting your hands in hair and just like feeling like back at home kind of thing. What comes to me is like the energy healing part. And that's like such a weird transition, but, when did you start to look into Reiki and things like that? And how have you kind of incorporated that into your life and or business?
All right. So I've always been kind of a little bit of a weird human.
Which is why I like you so much.
Perfect. So when I was a kid, I've always been into like spirit and connecting to life beyond this life, I guess. And so I used to actually be able to see spirit. I saw things in our home. And I think once I got old enough to like go to school and have to be present there, like there was a shift and I no longer saw spirit anymore. But I always had this like desire to connect with that again. And so then I like fast forward to like when I was in college, I met this girl and like, we're going to be ghost hunters. We're going to do this thing. And we're going to like, you know, we want to connect. We want to be a part of that. And so then, you know, I think what it took for me to find the right path of like wanting to connect to spirit and wanting to be a part of this. How do I explain it?
It's hard to put into words. I totally understand.
People probably are like, who's this crazy lady talking about ghosts? What's she doing with her life? But I don't know. I've just always felt drawn to that. And I think if you have that calling, like there's a reason you have that calling. And so now fast forward to me being more of an adult and more, just evolving, like growing into where I'm supposed to settle into this. You know, when I was a kid, I was like, oh, it's a ghost. You know, I'm picturing the movie The Sixth Sense, you know, like, so now as I've come to this journey and met some awesome ladies that have opened my eyes to more of what this could be, it's essentially like, it's evolved into me wanting to help people through that path. So, I receive messages intuitively. And I think Reiki has really helped me to evolve that. I wanted to find a path on how I can make this a thing. Like, how can I connect more? What, you know, path do I take? And so, I had met with my girl up in Rapid and kind of asked her, like, what do you think I should do? Like, how do I get into this more? How can I help people? How can I connect with spirit? What do I do? And I think everybody can be attuned to it. It's just your willingness. And, you know, if you're ready to take the journey, you know, I'm at the beginning stages of where I could be, you know. I feel like it'll take years before I am where I'm able to just like connect like this and give messages and go, but I'm starting and I'm loving it. And so I started Reiki about 1.5 years ago. I am a Reiki 2, which means that I am a practitioner. I think everybody should go at least do Reiki 1 because it's such an amazing experience. It's so spiritual and eye-opening and loving. Reiki is life force energy. And so it's healing energy. And it's done, you can do it in person, you can do it through distance because energy knows no sense of time or space. And so it's just wonderful. I did Reiki 1 and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do Reiki 2. I don't know how this feels. You know, I'm just going to start here. And once I went and did it, I was like, yep, there's no question. Like, I'm going to do this. Now, the next level of Reiki is like master Reiki. And that's how I would be able to be attuned to teach others Reiki. And I don't know quite sure where my journey will go there, but I'm really enjoying where I'm at now and settling into just being able to offer it on my guests, do it through distance, and then on myself too and my kids. It's like I said, it's loving energy. It's never ending flow of energy to the divine. And so whether that means you believe in God or, you know, whatever your belief system is, It doesn't matter. It's all just loving energy that's going to provide healing. And Reiki can help with so many things, whether it be PTSD or anxiety or like long-term pains that people have and things like that. Like it's great in nursing homes. They're opening their eyes to it more. In hospitals after surgeries, they'll go in and do Reiki to bring a sense of calm to the guests. It's just wonderful. I ramble.
Love this. No,
ramble.
this
Look
is
out.
no, it's so
I love
it's so
I
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how to express it because I could talk for days about it, just like bringing forth healing. And so when I do Reiki, like I said, I connect and I receive messages. And so how it comes to me is like a random word will pop in my head, or I'll hear a noise, or I'll see a color, or I'll see a spirit animal. And it's just so weird because when I talked about this, I'm like, God, people think this girl is all whacked.
No, I wonder, no, this is like, I am having like an eye-opening experience here because this shit happens to me all the time and I can't quite explain it. And I just call it like my inner guide or like my intuition. Yep. Like all of a sudden, like something will pop into my head and it will not go away. And it's like, you have to call this person and say this thing. And I'm like, I don't know if this makes sense to you, but like, this is what I feel like I need to see right now. And they're like, oh my God, thank you so much.
I love it.
I don't know what the fuck is happening, but no, I love that shit. And like, and maybe you have this happen too. And Reiki has always been something, or just energy healing in general. I've done so much of my own personal research and things like that. And I've always wanted to, the couple things on my bucket list or to-do list, I don't even want to call it a list, but like on my journey at some point in time, I would love to go through like a yoga teacher training to like get a better, not to teach yoga necessarily, but to get a better understanding of like that. And then also Reiki has always been, and actually I was going to do one this spring, but then all this shit happened. And so they canceled the session. It was one up in Sioux Falls. And it was like
was that the crochet yoga studio?
Yes, it was the whatever one you sent me that you did. Yes, yeah, because I asked you about yours, I think, like a year ago, or maybe Mo told me. Somebody told me about the one that you did. I think it was you. Anyways, yeah, because I remember we talked about this, but no, this shit is, I love this stuff because I feel like we as humans know what we need to do, but we've like programmed ourselves to tune out all of these downloads that are coming to us. And so like every now and then I'll ask myself a question. I'll be like, oh, what's my next step? Or what should I do here? What should I do here? And then all of a sudden like images or colors or sounds or shape, like you said, and it's like, oh my God, that makes perfect sense if I would just listen to that. But then we tend to overthink and say, oh, that can't be right, or this is too easy. That's my big thing, is I'm like, this is too easy, like something's gonna go wrong. So I think this is awesome. So for like the common folk, the people who think we're crazy right now, can you explain kind of like what Reiki means, like how where did it come from? And I know a little bit about this, but like, where did it come from? And like, how do you actually heal people? Like when you get these like downloads and like, Reiki is touch, correct?
It can be touch, or it can be through distance.
Okay. Oh yeah, you said
there's
that
lots
earlier.
There's lots of different ways that you can do it. So it's a Japanese, it came from Japan. I don't know how to, Japanese practice.
Okay.
But,
sure.
Yeah.
Words
are hard. What am I saying? And so it means life force energy is what it means. Okay. And so when you get attuned, you are these symbols are, how do I explain it? Again, words are hard.
I know. Sometimes it makes more sense in your brain, and then trying to like find the words to explain what it is that you're seeing it can be really hard.
I'm like drawing out with my hands right now, so you can see. So it's the symbols are infused, and then you go through a meditation, and then we do a lot of like reading on the history of it and where it evolved from, and so it's actually a fairly new practice. The guy who discovered Reiki, it was in like 1912, so it's fairly new, really. But if you think about healing, it's in every single culture. If you read the Bible, Jesus was healing people with his hands. And so, not to compare myself to Jesus or anything, but that that healing can be done, and it's all through that connection to the divine and wanting to help. And so how it flows through me, every person is different on how, like what you'll feel when you're getting the experience done. And it's so weird because I remember like when I was able to first do that for someone, I was like, this is weird. I promise I'm not intentionally doing this. This is just how it's happening. And so when energy flows through me, I connect to Reiki and I have my guest in front of me and literally like my hands will like vibrate. It's the weirdest thing. I don't know how to explain it, but like the energy is just flowing. Like you can feel it, you know? And so like I've had my guests like where, you know, like when somebody like rubs their hand past you and you can feel like that, like, I don't know, you feel like that static charge of that energy, you know? So you can feel that. And so my guests will a lot of times, like I'll be working on their head, but they'll feel like a tingling on their foot and they're like, what is going on? But it's just the Reiki energy, like going where it needs to provide healing. And so sometimes like my guests will feel the feeling of like floating, they'll see colors themselves in that time and space. A lot of times Reiki, so it goes through and it does healing, right? And if you think of all the chakras where all of our emotions and energy is held, a lot of times you will remove blockages. And so I've had guests on my table cry because an emotional block has come up and been released. I don't know. It's so amazing. Like everybody's experience is different and how it flows and what they feel is, I don't know. It's just awesome.
So what was what was your first experience like?
So the first experience I had was just a mini session that we did in our training. And so it was about like a 15-minute long session and it was great. Like I could feel things shifting and moving in my body. It was so strange. It was such a cool experience and I wanted more. I craved more. So in the training, because, you know, they're working through 10 people and getting them to learn this, we don't have a lot of time to then give me a full session, please. So I went and I found a gal in Sioux Falls and she's absolutely wonderful as well. And she does a lot of the same things that I do where through Reiki energy, she's able to connect to your guides and bring forth healing that way as well. So you get the healing from the Reiki, but you also get healing messages from your guides helping to lead you on your path or give you the message you need for that day. And so I had a session from her and yeah, I'm like addicted now. Even though I can perform Reiki on myself, it's like I can do my own hair too, but like I want someone else to do it for me, right? And so she's wonderful. During her session, I've had a couple now, and again, COVID happened and that put a damper on things for me. And so with her session, I felt like I was floating and just this sense of like euphoria, you know, like all that like negative energy we store in our bodies, that being released. And so I was calm. A lot of times when I don't know if you ever get like, I feel like you pick up on people's energy too. So like when I get like a massage or like lash extensions, you know, you sit there calm and steady when I've done yours, but like if I get them done, I mean, I am like a nervous wreck. My eyes are fluttering and I'm twitching and I can't breathe. It's because I'm picking up on people's energy. And so when I went to this lady in Sioux Falls to get it done, oh my gosh, like I felt like I could have been snoring on her table. Like I was so calm and I wasn't picking up other energy. I was just like the most relaxed I've ever been. It was strange because I've never had that. Even when I've, you know, gotten a massage from my best friend, I still feel like a little like panicky and it's a little hard to breathe and stuff like that because I'm picking up what everybody around me has going on. And with
like
her,
the empath in you just absorb like everybody else's energies, even if they're like, I'm fine. And you're just like, you know, they're full of shit.
Yeah. Yep. And so with her, I think it's because, again, how you've said, you know, in my space, you feel that sense of calm. She was able to do that for me. Like, her energy is just so like, it's just like a hug. Her energy is the best. I love it. And so, yeah, it was such a cool experience to, you know, have that like floaty, euphoric, you know, just this sense of peace that I hadn't had before laying on a table in a spa. You know, it was wonderful.
I think that's the feeling that a lot of people are seeking when they have these services. And I think that's probably why they end up choosing the people that they do. And it's not necessarily like what they said during that time. It's how they made you feel in that moment and then afterwards too, right? So a lot of times
we need like a match.com for like finding your hairdresser or finding your massage therapist.
Seriously though. And I've gone through and I wish you guys weren't so far from me, because I would probably go to you a lot more. I mean, hell, there's been times where I've like driven over an hour to like, I'm on my way, tell me.
I appreciate you.
Same with Mo. I'm like, oh God. You know, and I've gone to other massage therapists, and I've gone to other salons and things like that. And there's a few that I have really enjoyed. But then there's a few places that you go and you're like, I am never going back there again. And not that like the services were bad. It was just like, you couldn't fully relax or feel, you know what I mean? Like I've had it where I've gone and done massages before, and I think the therapist needed me to be there more than I needed to be there, because I also have that like vibe about me, and I'm sure you get this all the time, where people just dump their life stories on you, and literally all of you have said is, how's your day? And I've been into massages before, and they just, I mean, tell me their deepest, darkest secrets. It's like, wait a minute, I came here to feel relaxed.
This is my time, lady.
Not pick up your shit that you want to dump on me.
Yes.
But I feel like that happens, and maybe you use this in you know, maybe the Reiki and the energy healing kind of flows over into your salon too, where you just make people feel welcome and comfortable and relaxed. And I'm sure that's why you're as successful as you have been. I mean, for me as an outsider anyways.
That's my goal. That's my intent. So to hear that it's happening and people are enjoying it, I don't know, makes me super happy. And it's been a bit of a challenge because, you know, I've been a hairdresser for 11 years. So I am really busy in that aspect. So then to try to incorporate Reiki into, you know, somebody that's already in there for a highlight, I kind of had to navigate, find a path there, because otherwise if I wanted to strictly do Reiki, you know, I'll have time in my schedule. You know, I'm just so full already with what I'm doing. And so I found ways to incorporate it during like your shampoo service. And so what I've been doing is I'll get some essential oils going, because I love essential oils.
Oh, you and me both.
I'll whip out my sage and my Palo Santo, and I'll do, you know, a Reiki session as your deep conditioning, or, you know, whatever else. And I'll do the Reiki, you know, that way. And that's been really cool to see my guests, you know, people that I didn't know if they would be open to it, because a lot of times, you know, I feel like with where we live, people sometimes think yoga's the devil.
Oh my God, yes. Or they think it's just stretching.
Yeah. God, and to change the mindset that like, this is all love. Nothing of this is negative. You know, nothing of this is dark or bad nature. It's, you know, and I think my guests know me well enough to know my heart and know that I would never come from a bad place, to where they feel, even though like the word Reiki is not their thing and they don't even know what it is, you know, they'll still like, they're like, yeah, give me a good shampoo. I'll take it. You know, whether they know they're getting Reiki or not, you know, they're receiving that healing energy and that sense of peace. And I've really, you know, now that I've allowed more time in my schedule because of COVID, I have to have a little bit more wiggle room to really like clean and sanitize every little thing in there between guests. So I've kind of spread my schedule out a little bit more, and that too allows me more time to do the energy work when my guests are in there. And so I've really loved that, and loved the feedback of clients that, you know, have never had that before, just to finally like take a second for them, especially during this time, you know, with all the craziness that's happening in the world and all the stress and panic. I feel like us light workers, this is like our time. Like we need to help people.
Yes, I too feel that. But first, like when you're talking about that, you make me want to go get my hair washed by you. Like I that is like my idea of a spa day. Like I love the smell of sage. I love the smell of Palo Santo. I was burning the shit out of those this last week. I don't know. Do you ever just have like the feeling where you're like, I need to clean this house? Like,
oh yeah.
You know, and I don't mean like physically clean this house. I mean like I need to get all the negative shit out of my house.
Yes, most definitely.
And then I was packing up some oils the other day, and I have like over 60 oils. And my husband's like, he's like, you have a problem. I'm like, you need to mind your business.
Yeah, look away. Close your eyes when you're looking at me.
But I do think that it's interesting that you say, you know, the light workers need to, well, really, the light has been shined on us, I feel. You know, it's so interesting. And I don't watch like mainstream media, but maybe you've seen this too. They're having more and more discussions around like eating healthy and exercising and meditation. And I even seen a blurb on EFT on tapping, you know, and I'm like, this is so crazy. I mean, I love it. I think that everybody needs to kind of tune inward and go get back to, I call it get back to basics. You know, you get back to just Mother Nature and the earth as its entirety, and quit looking so much outward and start looking more inward. If that makes sense. I think it makes sense to me and you, but some other people look to, you know, say for us to, you know, guidance, or like, how do I get on this path? And really you're just kind of guiding people back to themselves, you know, with different tools and strategies.
Well, I think we have so much like anxiety and stuff built up too, that people like kind of struggle to be alone with themselves. They're kind of scared because they don't want to dredge up stuff that, you know, traumas or hurt or anxieties that they have. It's kind of hard sometimes to be alone with yourself.
It absolutely is. And you know, you want to make sure that you practice it safely, because I know that there's certain individuals who may experience, you know, like PTSD or just like depression or things like that, or have different tendencies in general. And if you get to those dark spaces, sometimes it's hard to pull yourself out of. But I also think that it's important to note, maybe you can have a take on this too, that it's okay to experience feelings and emotions. And that's what makes us human. And I feel like a lot of our anxieties now are, at least mine in particular, are not being able to express myself fully and shoving things down or worrying about things that aren't really that big of a deal. And then all of a sudden it manifests in stress and anxiety in your body, and can even then manifest into physical symptoms, where you can't sleep at night, or you stop eating, or, you know.
100%. Yep. 100%.
So what do you do in that? Or do you like help, like, how do you help people with that too? Or are you still kind of navigating those waters?
So
all of the above.
A little bit. Yeah, really. So I've been doing some distance sessions since I was, you know, stuck at home for 60 days. I've been doing distance Reiki sessions to help do healing that way. And then I even get together. I have a couple groups on Facebook that I'm in, where we will do like group meditations at certain times to like heal the world. Let's heal the earth. Let's heal the people. Like, we've been trying to do so much of that. And I think like I've noticed a big shift in people. I don't know if it is because they're trying to escape the media, and like every platform you look on your phone, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, you can't escape all that's happening in the world. And I've been noticing a lot of people putting their phones down and going and being outside. I mean, right now I've got my neighbors outside, and there's people riding bikes, and, you know, I feel like now's the time to shift and connect. And I am seeing a lot of that in people. I mean, you do see a lot of still like the negatives, you know, the anger and the hate and the violence that's happening. But I think, you know, a lot of people are really waking up and stepping into like, let's show compassion and love and peace and healing and help each other grow. So I think it's one of those things that's going to kind of, as we continue to speak up about it, and I know it's forced me to speak up more about wanting to help others at this time. So I think everybody's kind of stepping up and wanting to grow together, at least from what I've seen. I mean, I got a bunch of hippies on my Facebook page and stuff, so I love it. We all have that same energy.
I save the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm the exact same, and I'm with you on the shutting down kind of the social media. And I've been spending so much more time outside, or just with my family, or just like journaling or reading. And I've had to like unfollow and just so many different things. And I'm a big conspiracy theorist.
Yes.
And I feel like there's so much going on in the world, and it's a distraction. And not that I'm trying to lessen the importance of what's going on. That's not, how do I say this without, and this is the people pleaser in me. It's like, how do I say this without offending somebody? But I feel like a lot of the events that have happened in 2020 aren't necessarily coincidence. And, you know, you take the cards that are dealt with you, and you figure out how you want to play your cards, kind of thing. Right. Like, but at the same time, I want to be helping people how I see is most beneficial in the long run, and like giving more love and light, and maybe less reaction, and less putting out fires, and less drinking the Kool-Aid from the media.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. 100%.
I hope that. So I'm glad that you relate to that, because I'm like,
Yeah.
how do I say this without like offending somebody is gonna think that I'm.
Well,
I
you can't make
don't even
everybody
know.
happy. You know, some people are going to be like, oh God, these guys. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I agree with you in a lot of ways for sure.
It's definitely an interesting time that we are in right now, and I feel like we are in a big shift in our whole world, like in our universe. Like everything is shifting, and I'm not an astrologist, but I know that there's 3 things happening right now that have not happened in our history, if I believe.
Yep.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can put it into words.
I think for the most, there's something, oh God, now I can't remember.
I know. I'm like, there's 3 things happening right now.
There's 3 things. There's something happening in October. Like there's like a weird moon thing happening then.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Oh God, I don't remember the other 2 now.
It's like something to do with the stars and the elements and things like that. And there's 3 things happening right now on our physical planet in our universe that, you know, and everything's an energy, right? And this is where it's so hard. Like it makes perfect sense in my brain, but like, how do I put this into English words so that somebody else can understand what I'm trying to tell them?
Yeah,
so in my brain, it makes perfect sense. And I'm sure this makes sense to you, but like there's shifts that are happening on our planet and our world and our universe, and it affects everything that has an energetic force to it. Same thing with like the moon phases or the sun. Like if there was no sun, there would be no planet, right? Like the sun is an energy source, and there's so much to learn as far as energy. But when big things happen, it's the ripple effect. Other things happen too because of it. And yeah, I just feel like that this is like 2020 might be the year where the light workers and the people who are sending, you know, love and light and want to heal kind of take the spotlight and bring more people under our wing. And I feel like more people are waking up. I feel like our world in general, like the consciousness is shifting, which is really cool to be a part of.
It is. It's really fun to watch it evolve and to go from like what our parents, like even when I talk to like my mom and dad about this, they're like, this girl is crazy. I made this human and she is weird. But I think a lot of people that are like around our age, like they get it, man. They understand it, and they are open, and they, you know, they're willing to grasp this new information and grow with it, which is really cool.
It is. It is interesting to see the generation before us and the generation after us, or even like just a slightly younger generation than me and you. I feel like they are not quite there. So this is my take on things. I feel like the people who are older than us are like, this is the way things have always been. This is the way things need to continue. And if it's working, if it's not broke, don't fix it, kind of thing.
Exactly.
And then there's like us, where we're like, okay, well, if the breadcrumbs are leading this way, I'm going to kind of listen to that. And I'm just going to go with what my gut tells me. And, oh, here's this sign. Okay, I'm going to take that information, process it, see what serves me, toss what doesn't. And then there's the generation after us, like the ones who were slightly younger. I feel like they're, listen to me, please listen to me. Like, treat us fairly. And I want to do nothing, but I feel really entitled. And I hate to even say that, but I find
why is it
a
like
lot
that?
of, maybe it's just I don't know, maybe it's an age thing. Cause I know when I was like 20, I was very entitled to, and I had like a chip on my shoulder, and I felt like the world owed me something. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're in your late 20s, early 30s, and you're like, oh, wow, okay, well, nobody owes me anything, and I'm 100% responsible for my life. So,
yep, I made those choices. That was me.
But I mean, exactly. And all of our choices have led us to where we are today. You know, I mean, it's so interesting to hear you talk about spirit and ghosts and things like that. And now, you know, you're kind of stepping into that in a sense, wouldn't you say?
Yes, definitely. Like,
so do you still see spirit?
I don't see spirit anymore. And I don't know if I'll get back to that. I think a lot of it was like, I don't know. We have this, again, stinking media. Stinking TV. I watched a lot of scary movies when I was younger, and I think I built up this like wall out of fear, because of the unknown. You know, I don't know what it'll. You know, again, coming back to The Sixth Sense, that movie freaked me out, man. Like I was like, holy goodness, they're going to come and they're going to be like throwing up and bleeding and all these crazy
yeah, that movie was
things that I just didn't want to see, you know?
scary.
And so I think I closed it and turned it off. But now that I'm diving back into it and actually finding ways to connect, most of the time when I connect with people's energy and stuff, I usually connect with your guides for the most part. I have had a few guests that have asked me to try to connect to spirit. And that's been so strange because it was not like what I thought it was at all. Like, again, I had that fear and that worry that it was going to be scary. And oh my gosh, it's like just this awesome, loving energy. And I've always believed that when we pass, that we, you know, we feel that loving energy from the divine. And so we are all out of love then at that point. You know, I don't feel that like any spirit that I've connected with has not been dark or negative or, you know, and maybe I said that intention as well, that like nothing bad can come, only love and light. Like I only want good things to come and connect with me. But every spirit I've connected with so far has been so just loving and peaceful and just like this, like, it's like talking to an old friend. It's so weird. It's so strange. And I even feel weird, like when it still happens, I'm like, I can't believe I can do this. This is the weirdest thing. Like, what is going on? Is this real life? Like, it's so strange for me, but so magical at the same time. And so then, you know, I bring forth the information to my guests and just having that like validation. And they're like, oh my gosh, yes, that's the shirt he wore. That was his favorite color, like all the time. Like just hearing that validation makes it so much more real and awesome to me to know that I can do that. I can be that space for people to receive healing messages. And again, I don't think I'm anywhere where I'm even going to be yet. I think I've got so much growth to do and so much learning to do to where it's going to be like, oh God, I can't, I'm so excited for the next few years for what I can do for others.
Listening to you talk about this just gets me so excited because that's got to be a pretty cool feeling.
Oh, I'm so passionate about it.
Ugh, that's awesome. No, I'm sitting here and I'm like, and it's such a different, I don't even know, like realm to be in because I think it's part of me thinks that this kind of stuff has been around forever.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But then I feel like maybe modern history, you know, in the last few hundred years, we've kind of like called it witchery or something.
Yes,
and
yep.
People kind of deemed it as negative. And I'm sure there was one thing that happened bad. And then that's the only thing that's, you know, relayed to other people. You know, if you have a bad customer service experience, they say that, you know, for every, yes. And I feel like it's just passed down through history. And, you know, and then we have that underlying consciousness where we've been programmed to believe that spirit is bad or that crossing over is bad. And oh, this was the other thing I was gonna say. You talked about spirit and crossing over a little bit, and I feel like we, in our society now, or in our culture, we feel like death is very scary, but I feel like it could be a very beautiful thing. And I think that, you know, we try to do all of these things to prolong death or you know,
we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to think about it.
No, exactly. And it's like, but you only get one life, so why not make the absolute best out of it? And then when you transition, there has to be something beyond. Like I find it hard to believe that you just like go to sleep and it's like done. You know, like I feel like there's something after.
Yep, I agree. I think like back to you saying like, you know, people were witches or whatever else. I think a lot of it was like, you know, and I don't want to compare because there's, I mean, obviously big differences, but think of like what's happening today. And how people are being discriminated. I think it was the same thing. I think it was like, you know, there were these people that were extremely religious. And if you believed anything but that, then you're bad. You know what I mean? Or if you did anything besides read the Bible, you're a bad human. But if you look back at like the source of what witches really were, if you like really truly do the study behind what they were healers.
Yes.
Their intent was to heal people through plants, like what we're trying to do again. You know, there's this surge of like CBD coming back through again. Because it's medicinal. It's going to help people. It's going to heal people instead of something that's been cooked up in a lab that's, you know, we don't know what's in there and what side effects you're going to get. The intent back then was healing and helping people. And so it's sad that like these people, you know, you see when you watch movies about them, they're these scary things with warts and they're like, you know, these dark entities when really, you know, witches all came from like a space of healing. I've done a lot of research on there. Like in that space of like understanding witches, because I've kind of like, I wanted to dive into this like apothecary kind of thing where I like I want to provide healing for people using natural ingredients and natural things. And I want to cook up like these self-care boxes for people.
That would be so cool.
Where they there's like healing, like bath rituals and homemade candles and like all this yummy stuff that like will force people to have to like have an hour of self-care. I think it's so important to just bring that healing and to use those natural ingredients and get back to, you know, here I am spinning off of like who knows what, but
no,
just,
I love it.
I think
I have like the biggest smile on my face.
I'm like beaming, but I'm also like, okay, like I just went from here to here. Do I have, I don't know. Like
I'm
a
with
squirrel
ya.
attention. Tink, tink. Terrible.
No,
I
love that.
Every hairdresser I've met is like that. I feel like we're all just like, what's over here? And what's happening here? Let's do this thing.
Yeah. I have squirrel brain too.
Man.
I hear ya. No, but you're hearing you talk about like witches and stuff like that. When I was growing up, I was like obsessed with like real witchcraft, like not like the shit you see on the movies, but like the elements and like natural healing, and like they call them spells, but really it's like healing mantras or affirmations.
Yes, or like intentions.
Yes, all of those things. And I have been obsessed with that stuff since I think I was like 6 or 8 years old, whenever I moved out to the country. And I used to like just, my parents thought I was so weird. And I brought my sister along with me too. And I'd be like, guys, we're going to go out to the field and we're going to do a spell. And
I love it.
I'd walk through the woods and I'd like chant things, and like I used to see things. Oh God, this is bringing back so many memories. I love it.
I think it's so great. I think we lose that sense of like that. Like I want to do that now. Like we lose that sense of like, childhood wonder and excitement about all the things around us, because again, we zone in on all this technology and we lose that connection to all the beautiful things that are out there and all the magic there is in, you know, our world that's existing. Yeah, I love that.
I love it.
Why don't we hang out more? What are we doing with our lives?
I know.
Let's go to the woods together right now. I'm ready.
I literally just thought that, and you said that. I was like having a moment, and I'm like, man, I'd like to hang out with her again. And then you said it.
You wouldn't be able to shut us up, though. We'd probably talk like for hours.
Oh fuck, we're gonna have to plan something. Okay, so to start wrapping this up, what do you, I know we covered so much, talk about hair.
I know, for real. They're like,
witches.
This girl's crazy.
What do you want to leave listeners with? What do you want to send them with their takeaway?
Oh goodness. Don't be afraid to grow and change and take care of yourself. I feel like I did a lot of like beating myself up for not being who I needed to be at certain times, and every aspect of this growth and of your life that you're at right now is going to lead you to something better. I don't know. I just feel like we just need to appreciate all the steps. And take time for you. Go get your hair done. Go get a Reiki session. You know, go in the woods. Do something good. Do some healing.
Definitely go get a Reiki session. They are incredible. I think I did my first one when I was like, had to have been 4 or 5 years ago, and I didn't even know what the hell I was getting into. It just sounded good, and I booked it. And I had
what was your experience like?
So I did my first one. It was actually in Sioux City, and I was just having difficulty processing a bunch of basically downloads that I was getting. And this was right before I kind of went online with like new business and stuff like that. I just kept getting all these like things coming into me, and I didn't know how to process. And you know, traditionally you would go see like a therapist or a counselor, and I did that, but I felt like I wasn't being like heard. Nobody really was understanding.
You gotta find the right place to connect.
Yeah, and I just kept like saying things, and people were like, you're not making any sense. Like, everything's fine. Like, why do you want to do these things? You have the perfect life. And I'm like, you're not fucking listening to me though. You know, like, I'm like, all of this stuff, like I can't process this stuff. I have all these things like I want to say and I want to do, and I just felt really like stuck. Like there was like it was like a bunch of fucking hamsters going off in my chest all the time. And I'm like, I have to free the hamsters. Like, they're making me crazy.
It's so funny that you say that's your like experience too. Cause I think of like, when I go to my Reiki lady, like, that's my counseling session. That's my church. That's my like spiritual, like, so I love to hear that you think of it the same way.
Yes, that was exactly it. And so I'm like, I need to go somewhere and do something that's going to like help me release all of these things that I'm trying to process and like make sense of it. And I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, but something again, like intuitively popped into my head and was like, you should do a Reiki session. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck Reiki is, but I'm gonna go do it.
Yes.
And I did. I had no idea. I got there and it was so crazy. And I just remember like walking up the stairs and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, this is so fucking weird. And I get in there and it's like they saged the place. They had some oils going. She had like these instruments that she was like, you know, going and banging around me. And then she's like, just be quiet, be still. And she never touched me, but it felt like she was touching me the whole time. And like I started like sweating. I wanted to like burst into tears. I never did though, because like I was like holding back because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, you know? And I'm like, I can't just come to this person's room and like start fucking bawling. Like
let it out, girl.
That's crazy. And so I held back tears, but like my whole body was tingling. I left. I was so sweaty and I felt like $1 million. I felt like I just sat in a fucking sauna and like cried for a week. Yes. It was like the strangest thing. And then all of a sudden it was like the next day I woke up and I was like, oh, I need to quit my corporate job.
Yep, you had that clarity. I love it. Well, I remember like you literally like made this like shift out of nowhere, and like now to see you where you are, it's like I don't know, it's so beautiful. It's so awesome. You're so inspiring, and I try to always like tell people about the things you do and how you're real, you're genuine, you know you're open, and I think I don't know, it's so cool. I love it so much.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm just over here. I just don't, I mean, it's so interesting because like I know what I'm doing, but like I still don't know what I'm doing, you know?
Yep.
It's
Same here.
It's very hard to explain to people, but they're like, what are you doing now? And I'm like, literally everything in my life is leading me up to this next big thing. And I'm not really sure what it is yet, but all I know is it's going to be big and I'm going to like it. And these are just all the parts of it. And I'm just going to keep listening to these little, you know, downloads that I'm getting. And I don't know where they come from, but I can't shut it off anymore. And it's like a voice in the back of your head is just, once you start to tune into that, maybe it's the same for you. It like gets louder and louder and louder. And it's like, okay, I'm listening.
Yep. I'm going to make it happen. Lay off me. It's going to be a thing. Just give me time to settle into this new idea.
Oh shit. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Like, give me time to process, absorb it. Yeah. Well, thank you for doing this with me today. I loved this conversation.
I know. Again, we're gonna have to get together and chat more because I love like connecting with people that have that same mindset. That are like open, they want to learn more, and they have new ideas that I haven't heard of before. And like because there's so much information that like I don't know all the things. I'm ready to learn more. You know, there's always room for growth.
Always, absolutely. And I feel like as soon as you have that I know it all mentality, you just close yourself off to all of the goodness that could come your way. Exactly. Okay, I'm really going to end it this time. I'm so happy that you had this conversation with me, though. I feel so much I just feel energized right now. I feel alive. I love these conversations. So thank you again.
Good. Thank you too. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for listening to the Sasha Davis podcast. It would mean so much to me if you could take 3 seconds out of your day and leave me an honest review on your podcast app, or take a quick screenshot and share to your social media and tag a friend, letting us know what you enjoyed most about this episode. And as always, for free resources and ways to work with me, head on over to my website, sashadavis.com, or send me a message on Facebook or Instagram at sasha.davis. And I hope you guys have a kick-ass day.